is up? If you don't know who I am, look at the top of that video, or this video. You'll see my name, Tor Riccardi. I saw a video today. It's on Facebook about kind of the political stuff that's going on. And to give you a little information about myself, I wanted to start a podcast, kind of like a Joe Rogan show, but just kind of like newer age, and bring in some more musicians, some local artists, and kind of do some promotions for some friends and talk about some politics. Now, you obviously see all this gear I have, green screen, set it all up, and you're like, what? You just have this? I'm actually a 29-year-old gamer. Yes, I love games, but don't worry. I'm a grown-ass man playing grown-ass man games, okay? I love gaming. It's fun for me, and it was a good opener for me to do some game streaming live on Facebook. That warms me up to do like a podcast in the future. But right now, just all the crazy stuff that's going on in politics, and people just wants to call everyone names and label everyone, put everyone in a box. I backed off. I got a kid, I got a family, and I wanted to get a little more comfortable with being in front of people, even if it's in front of a camera. So anyway, I saw this video today, and I posted it, and you'll see right here. I'll be making a video on this today. Too good to pass up. And I wanted to share it with you guys with a little bit of my reaction, because I feel like it gives a little more to the video when you get to see how I think of it. Since people have their own perceptions of my political beliefs. If you don't know, I would say I'm a liberal with conservative views, meaning I'm pretty down to earth. I can be compassionate, I can understand things, but again, I'm not going to put up with bullshit. That's a conservative way. Like, people aren't working hard anymore. People are losing their morals and somewhat being very disrespectful. I don't like that. I don't like how people engage with each other right now. And so maybe I can create a bridge. So here we go.
Russian sort of collusion.
Whoa.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion. Trump, Russian, metal collusion. Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Trump, Russia.
It starts with a really good beat, so just hear it out, okay? Just hear it out.
Potentially collusion.
Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, collusion. Trump, Russia, Russian collusion. Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Russian hacked our election. Here comes a big change.
Uh-oh. It's happening. All right, here we go.
I wonder, in a position like yours, where you support the president and you don't agree with everything, but support a lot of the policies, how you grapple with having your character and reading his tweets and seeing how he can't apologize for things. He can't accept when he's wrong.
I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize.
He can't apologize for things. He can't accept when he's wrong.
And I apologize.
How do you grapple with just that character? How do you support a guy when you're so different?
Well, I support his policy agenda. I don't have to support every character flaw that he has. We can have multiple ideas in our head at the same time, right?
The president's not listening to you, though.
Nobody is. I'm not sure anybody is these days.
So it's an interesting point. I really like this guy. If you don't know about him, he's a veteran. He lost his eye, and he was actually ridiculed on Saturday Night Live, but he took it pretty good. He actually went on Saturday Night Live and made fun of the guy. It was really cool how this worked out. So I think it's a good video for me to start on, to actually put my face out there. And hey, it's in May 2019. You know what I'm saying? My birthday's in May. I'm a Taurus. Anyway, what he's saying is like, Trump obviously says some dumb shit. I support Trump. I want him to succeed. I want the pilot of this plane to actually land this plane and not fucking make it crash. Okay? So I'm not going to go in and just beating drums and screaming as loud as I can and hoping, because this is what I learned from a lot of people who are anti-Trump. They want him to fuck up. They want him to fail. And you see this in the media. You see this in other politicians. And it's normal in politicians, because, they want their opponent to fail so they win, and they can use that as like, hey, he failed. I'll come in and I'll solve all your problems. Blah, 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 So I like what he said here. Let's just roll on. It's pretty short.
No, I'm not going to pretend that it's gotten better, but if we can all be part of the solution, I think. And again, that's a low bar. Just don't insult each other. But you look at any member of Congress's Twitter feed. All it is insults.
It's not just that though with him. It isn't just
politics.
That. Let's talk about the fact that he met with Putin for 90 minutes this week or last week.
This girl reminds me of my crazy aunt, by the way. I never watched this show. I've only seen highlights from it, and she just reminds me of my crazy aunt.
And never once brought up the fact that Russia interfered in our election. And he never brought it up.
Months before the 2016 presidential election, the Obama team knew that the Russians were meddling. As the election campaign was in full swing, the National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, told the team to stand down, stop working on options to counter the Russian attack.
Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, oh, well, that's Fox News. Well, that's actually pretty proven that the Obama administration knew about this. And this is where Trump even came out. It's like, if you knew about stuff that was going on or meetings, why didn't you guys come to me? I would have addressed this. We could have worked together and addressed this. But that wasn't the point in politics. The point in politics is really try to get something going, make a story, and try to uncover it and use it against your opponent, basically. I mean, that's politics. If you haven't been in politics long enough, I recommend that you really look at the tactics that are used. The tactics can become gruesome, just gruesome.
The Obama administration should have done a lot more when it became clear that not only was Russia intervening, but it was being directed at the highest levels of the Kremlin.
Russia
That was CNN, guys.
interfered in our election, and he never brought it up.
I had a very good talk with President Putin, probably over an hour, and we talked about many things. Venezuela was one of the topics, and he is not looking at all to get involved in Venezuela, other than he'd like to see something positive happen for Venezuela.
So that was a big worry. That's what we heard in the mainstream media was if Venezuela collapsed and we didn't do anything about it, which is really weird because you hear liberals that are always like, we need to stay out of the affairs, like stay out of these countries. They need to stand up, which I'm partially agreeing on. But at the same time, they're contradicting themselves and saying, you know what, if we don't jump in, Russia's going to jump in. And it's like, okay, let's go with that.
And he never brought it up.
What'd you say to him?
Very strong on the fact that we can't have meddling, we can't have any of that. Now, look.
And he never brought it up.
Now, look, we're also living in a grown-up world. Will a strong statement, President Obama supposedly made a strong statement. Nobody heard it.
And tell him to cut it out, and there were going to be some serious consequences if he didn't.
Strong statement. That's a very strong statement. I'm not going to ridicule that much because he said something at least, but I have my own opinions on why I don't think he was a strong leader. That's fine. That's just my personal opinion, all right?
What they did here is the statement he made to Putin's very close friend, and that statement was not acceptable.
This is my last election for you. Yeah, and after my election, I have more flexibility.
Can you just read that for me? If you don't know who this is a guy that works directly under Putin. Okay, this is what they call the Obama hot mic. You can YouTube this. This was a big thing that not a lot of people heard about. This is my last election. After my election, I have more flexibility. And I hope that they put in here what this guy says to Obama.
Didn't get very much.
Didn't. But what he says at the end is he goes, I will relay this directly to Putin. And look it up. If you want to fact check me all you want, that's fine. I'll tell you right now that that is absolutely true. You can look up the hot mic, Obama's hot mic with Russia or whatever, and that'll pop up. And the last thing that guy says is, I'm going to relate this straight to Putin. And it was over, if I remember correctly, it was over military air defense. Something about us relaxing our stuff or relaxing on them or relaxing our weapons. I don't know which or maybe both. I don't know.
Play, relatively speaking, but that statement was not acceptable.
And never once brought up the fact that Russia interfered in our election.
I let him know we can't have this. We're not going to have it. And that's the way it's going to be.
And he never brought it up. How is it that the Republican Party, your colleagues, can stand by this man when he is involved in this way with Russia?
Whoa, that's so weird. Okay. Did you hear what she just said? How can you stand with him because he never brings it up? He brought it up in the talks. Supposedly he brought it up in the talks. Okay. And I don't know what she's going off of how she knows that he didn't. Like, did she talk to Putin? Did Putin tell her that he didn't talk about this or bring up the point of, meddling in our elections? Which, this whole meddling in our elections, you guys, everyone's kind of like going berserk over it. You don't know what we do in other people's elections. Like, we sponsor rebels to go and overthrow. That's what they're trying to do in these other countries in the East. We go and overthrow leaders to push our democratic, or I should say, is it democratic? We basically push leaders that we want in play so we can do business with them. It's usually they take over resources. That's a huge one. It happened in Iraq. We wanted bigger deals on oil and other resources they had over there. So let's keep going. That's why I can stand by Trump. If I'm gonna say I'm a Republican, which I don't like to say I'm either or. I like to be in the middle. I'll agree with people that are going to talk about environment until a certain degree. Then they get a little wild, and that's where it comes into the far left. And there's other topics on the left too, and then on the right. But I'm more for freedom, and you don't see that on the left. If you want freedom, you don't want more government. Like, who likes working with government? Go start a business. It's annoying. Like, they're the most. Go to the DMV. That's government. Like, the post office is a joke as well. Like, government agencies aren't efficient. A lot of them lose money. I don't want those people dictating my life. Like, do you want the people at the DMV to dictate your life? No, it's not. No.
He is involved with Russia.
But the special counsel found no evidence that any American, including anyone associated with the Trump campaign, conspired or coordinated with the Russian government or the IRA.
I mean,
So most people say Barr's covering up. I find that very interesting because Barr said this, and Mueller came out and said that he did the right thing. Mueller would have said Barr was lying, but he said he did it out of good faith and he did the right thing. So I don't think he was lying. That's the part. I don't think he was covering for him. And there's no evidence to make it even clear that he was. It's just people didn't like the results and they want to find anything they possibly can. It was just like when Hillary lost, they blamed Comey for it, which Comey did have a part of it, but that was their number one thing. Not even recognizing that Hillary was probably the worst candidate the Democrats could have picked. Like, if Hillary didn't steal the primaries from Bernie, he probably would have won. And the funny thing is I was rooting for him. If you go through my Instagram, you can scroll down. This is really, I lived out in the woods and I was growing medical marijuana for a living, okay? So I was a little secluded. I wasn't really watching a lot of politics at that time. And you scroll down, you're going to see I posted a picture of Bernie Sanders when he was in Portland and he had a bird landed on his podium. And I was like, I like what this guy has to say. For one, he's going to connect with the younger crowd because he's going to promise all kinds of things. The older people are going to look at him and be like, all right, how is that going to happen? Like, older people, that's what I like. Like me, when I was a kid, I come up with crazy ideas. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to do a business like this. And my parents would be like, how are you going to do that? Oh, I'll just figure it out. It's not how it works. It's not how government works on a massive scale when it comes to a country. It's just not.
I said last week that I don't want to see any of those flag pins anymore on Republicans who don't stand up against this guy for Russian meddling and other things that he's done. It seems as though he's unpatriotic.
I felt that the most effective way was to talk to him directly and tell him to cut it out, and there were going to be some serious consequences if he didn't.
I think we're overstating it. First of all, that meeting was regarding Venezuela. And
President, what sort of complications does the Russian
Which is true.
involvement now pose? Russia has to get out.
Did you hear that? Like, think about that. Like, if you want an answer, check this out. Listen to what he asks.
What sort of complications does the Russian involvement now pose? Russia has to get out.
For someone who's a Putin puppet, like, you don't respond like that. You're gonna butter it up for him, like, right? Maybe he's playing an act. I don't know.
All right, what's your next question?
Just stop.
That's it. Russia needs to get out of Venezuela. They need to get the fuck out. We don't want them there. I mean, come on, guys. Like, I think we can all sit in the middle and be like, okay, maybe he's not really this Russian puppet that the media and these other politicians in Hollywood, the people that are the true elites that are in this group and network to dictate what they want the people to believe. Like,
off the top of my head, as I'm thinking about it, let's think about these. Okay, so putting lethal aid in Ukraine, actually killing Russian militants in Syria, bombing Syria chemical weapons, what I saw, this is Russia's ally, pressuring the Europeans to spend more on their defense, to use our natural gas instead of Russian natural gas. None of these things are good for Russia. And then
that was a huge thing. When he went over and met with, I think it was Germany, he called out, or he met with the EU, a big meeting in Europe, and he basically told them, like, look, you guys are all on our ass for collusion, but you got Germany that's buying whatever, billions and billions of dollars worth of natural gas. And he came in and he made a deal to cut to North Korea, to cut out Russia. Like, this whole narrative with the whole Russia thing, like, he wants to benefit Russia so much and he cut these deals. Like, where is the proof in this? Like, maybe he wants a tower there. Probably did work out some deals. I wouldn't doubt it. Okay? But to say that he's using his presidential power to benefit, I haven't seen anything that what we have done policy-wise that is beneficial to Russia right now. Like, honestly, I don't see that. And I don't think Russia would even want to cause a war. They just came out of a horrible recession. And, like, look at their military. Their military, they spend what, $70 billion on their military? We're like over $500 billion, guys. Like, come on.
And let's look at what this president has done.
He's playing Putin? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying his action.
Protect our democracy
I'm
here,
going to get to that. I'm going to get to that in a second. So on the cyber defense side, this is an extremely important part, and it's bipartisan in nature. This administration has put way more funding into our cybersecurity defenses, as well as working for the first time, working with all 50 states and their election teams to make sure that there are best practices involved, to make sure that there's proper information sharing, to make sure that we actually are protecting our election. This is all new.
First off, I like his eye patch. That is a badass eye patch. Like, if I lose an eye, that's an eye patch I'm looking for. Now, what he said is that under the Trump administration, they put a lot of money into doing cyber protection for elections. People can run with the conspiracies. Oh, he's looking to take over. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Just ultimately, he put money into it because he could be out. He could literally be voted out in 2020, and then boom, we have that money into government elections being funded. That's a whole program, you know? So it might be interesting for you to look up. Georgia's elections got hacked by the government when Trump was running. But see, he wasn't in power. That was Obama's administration. And the governor, I'm pretty sure it's the governor of Georgia, called out whatever department it was that hacked into it and was like, yo, you guys are supposed to tell us when you're doing it. Like, you're not supposed to be able to just go and hack in and not tell us about it. We found out about it. Like, what is going on? So, some shady shit that's happened.
You're saying the policy doesn't always match the rhetoric.
That is true sometimes,
It's really happening. He's just not telling us it's happening.
It's really happening. He's just not telling us it's happening.
It should. And also, well, he just signed an executive order this last week that increases the ability for us to hire more of a cyber workforce. This is huge. Because that's exactly what we need in the government.
So we should just ignore all the dumb things he says.
No, you should take it into context. You should definitely criticize away.
Exactly my point.
You don't like what
exactly
he says, but we got to put everything in context as far as like what really is our strategy and what are the policies we're actually putting in place.
And now Trump wants to force asylum seekers to pay a fee. I don't understand why you would support this kind of idea.
Every country has the right to own its own sovereignty. Every country has the right to manage who comes in and out of its borders. And right now, it feels as though the United States does not have that right. We had 103,000 people illegally crossing our border. That was just in March. Okay, and it's on track to be even more than that this month. That was just...
Listen to what he just said. How many people came over in 1 month? Just in March. Listen to this.
Not have that right. We had 103,000 people illegally crossing our border. That was just in March. Okay, and it's on track to be even more than that this month. And by the way, Border Patrol thinks they only catch 1 in 3. So you can actually triple that number. So we have no effective control over our borders right now.
This is what I find very funny when people talk about drugs. Like, well, most of the drugs are caught at the border. So why are we worried about, you know, people running it through, or not the border, but the border crossing? Why are we worried about these open lands where drugs aren't being caught there? Just because they're not being caught there doesn't mean there's no drugs there. Like...
And on the fee part, what we should also note is that actually those illegal immigrants are already paying a fee. They pay a fee to the Mexican drug cartels. They have to. Mexican drug cartels have complete operational control of our southern border.
Complete operational control of the southern border. Meaning these people have to pay the cartels to be smuggled over. And not only that, they'll be connected with cartels that are here in the States, and those cartels will help them get jobs on farms. Trust me, I've worked on farms with immigrants, okay? It's a very tough situation that those people are in. I have a lot of sympathy for it. But the problem is it's flourishing because of our border protection. Like, our border is so poor. Our border is such a joke. I can't even believe it. And all these people say, well, we shouldn't have it. We shouldn't have it. Well, you think it's bad with poor borders? Like, imagine if we don't have a border. Like, it's going to be insane. Like, insane.
So they pay a few $100s
Aren't you
just to walk
bunching
across.
everyone together when you're talking about undocumented immigrants? I mean, many of these people are seeking asylum. What happened to our country's promise of give me your tired, your weak, and your poor? People that are truly coming here to seek a better life.
But as it turns out, about 80–90% of those don't have a valid asylum claim once we actually get their documentation.
80 to 90%. Someone fact check this. I mean, honestly, go ahead and fact check it. 80 to 90% of the people that claim asylum don't have a legitimate asylum case. And this is my point when it's people are like, well, they're asylum seekers. How do you know? Like, how do you know? Well, I don't just assume the worst in people. Well, look at Europe. They took in refugees and they brought in terrorists because they posed under refugees. Like, it's a major problem. And a topic I said before, when the immigrants come over and they're working with the cartels, sometimes when they're working with the cartels that are in the States, they still owe the cartel money. So they have to work and pay off the cartels even when they're here. Like, there's some problems going on, guys. If you guys want to ignore it all you want, that's fine. But don't call me racist because I know about these problems and I want a legitimate solution to it. Not like, I've never heard anything that's reasonable coming out of a Democrat's mouth. I haven't. Nothing that would actually solve these problems. Saying open borders, okay, is that going to solve the drug problem? No. That's not going to solve the drug problem. Fentanyl is huge, and it's much more potent than morphine, and it's fucking killing people. Like, we got a lot of problems, guys. Come on.
Because what they've learned over the years is that they need only to raise their hand and say they're claiming asylum, and that they need a child with them. So our laws are
There's
that
a
are based
child
on good
trafficking right
intentions
there.
are actually incentivizing child trafficking.
Cartels would steal children.
What you're saying actually
put them with these people that paid them.
If
This is a huge problem.
If you look at Latino justice, if you look at a lot of the research that has been
with
done.
Department of Homeland Security, and these are the numbers that are coming out. The vast majority,
Department of Homeland Security with Kirsten Nielsen.
But why? We'll explain why those are false then.
Well, a lot of them are false. I mean, if you look at it,
You're just saying they're false. You're not providing evidence.
Well, the cases didn't involve human trafficking, actually, and the cases mostly involved false documents where a child's other relatives identified themselves as the parent or tried to pass as minors themselves. So when you're talking about these cases as of March, only 1% of the 31,000 that you're referencing who had illegally crossed during those 5 months actually were not related in some way.
Now you've gone on to a different subject about children with adults. Okay, so
I thought that's what you had just said.
No, what I was saying is, no matter what, they're taking advantage of the asylum process. There is another problem, which you're referencing, of children being brought across with adults who are not their parents.
I was just curious, do you think this has been exacerbated by the guy in the White House? Because I have to tell you, we've always known that there were people who were trying to find asylum. Now, some people can do it, and no one ever knows that they don't have their visas.
Mm-hmm. Some people can do it, and no one ever knows that they don't have their visas.
And some people do it, and they do it the right way. But haven't we sort of set ourselves up for this? Because it seems to me, when you start the conversation by these people are, you sort of set a precedent. And for me, if you're worried about the border, then you have to really sort of take a look at what we can do instead of making it about them and us.
Well, here's what we do. We actually close the loopholes that we have. We make sure that people with valid asylum claims can be processed quickly. We need more immigration judges at the points of entry. We need more detention facilities and bigger processing centers so we can hold them, adjudicate their case. If it's found not to have a valid case, they're sent back immediately. And if they found to have a valid case, they're coming in. I think if you do that, you send a message that says you're no more catch and release. Because right now we have catch and release, where they come in and they're just released and they say, hey, please come back at a later date, and they never do. So this is a real problem.
A later date would be a year from now. So like if you come over the border, what it was, at least under Obama, was a year later, they'd tell people to come back to court. And a majority of the people wouldn't come back. So it's like the system obviously didn't work. Like
One of the things that Trump said recently is that he wants to cut aid to these countries, Nicaragua and the rest of them, coming in. Isn't that a more effective way to deal with immigration, by helping these countries rather than building a wall?
Yeah, I think it's part of the solution. It's got to be holistic. So there's been a...
So you disagree with Trump?
Well, there's a misnomer that we've always been trying to build a giant wall and then clean our hands of it. That's never been the case. That's never been the plan. More immigration judges has always been part of the plan. That's actually just in the recent proposal. Walls where that makes sense has always been part of the plan. I think we do need a development story or a development plan in these countries. Listen, humanitarian aid didn't help them before, and taking it away isn't going to change the process now. I wouldn't necessarily take it away. Trump is using that as a negotiation strategy to try and get them to take some kind of control over what's happening.
That's what you'll see in these arguments, right? Or these posts on Facebook. You'll see people absolutely freak out. Trump is threatening to take aid away from Mexico or Venezuela or whatever, wherever it is. And it's like, you guys, like, I just need to pull this out. There you go. People are absolutely taking things out of, not even out of context. I shouldn't even say that. What they're doing is they're not understanding how governments work with each other. I had to explain this with someone today about making a business deal, and there's a point where you have to be tough on your stance. And there are times you have to, I shouldn't say threaten, but you have to have a point of walking away is one big one. It's like when you buy a car. But you also have a point where you establish your ground, and maybe you guys will take sacrifices, but there's a point where you're going to have to pull, well, if you want to pull that, meaning if you want to undercut me, I'm going to have to pull this out. You know what I'm saying? That's business. And politics is just a big business game. It really is. Like, to get things done, it takes money, it takes time, you know. And the U.S. is pretty much a business. Like, no matter if you think it's not, it is. Like, that's just the cold hard facts.
And we'll see if that occurs or not.
Congressman, like me, you have been a vocal critic of Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's perceived anti-Semitic comments about Israel, and for saying, quote, some people did something on 9/11.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
Some people did something on 9/11. She has since apologized for these comments.
Ilhan Omar's comments wrong and disrespectful. Yes, they were. Omar should apologize instead of, she said, she's doubling down.
She has since apologized for these comments.
You should apologize. She won't, because that's not in the DNA of an Omar or a Ocasio-Cortez. It's tripling down and making the situation much worse.
She has since apologized for these comments.
I don't think this is that crazy anyway, than what she said right here.
Why do you think Democrats have been so reluctant to call her out?
Well, I think, unfortunately, we're playing a team sport these days.
Did you take any issue with the way Congresswoman Omar characterized 9/11?
No, I did not take that. I've had some problems with some of her other remarks, but not with that one.
All right, and we just had a long discussion about how Republicans feel about Trump, and I think you're seeing the same
obviously it's something that
issues play
struck
out
us
on
pretty
the
bad.
Democrats.
Like, to tell you the truth, guys, I have family in New Jersey, Trent, New Jersey, and when I was younger, I didn't live with my dad, and we would go and see my family in Trent, New Jersey every Christmas. Okay, and then we would always take a trip to New York and walk around, and New York is an amazing place. Like, if you haven't been there, I'd recommend it. I would never live there, ever. I would never live there. But it's a really amazing place that man and woman, I just mean man in general, of people, have built something like that. It's fairly amazing. And plus, it's like they don't sleep there, man. It's crazy. There's always something going on. I went there a month after 9/11 happened. You know, and so a lot of people, and I remember when this happened. This was when I was in 6th or 7th grade, 6th grade, because I remember my science class teacher. It was 6th grade, and I remember staring at the TV. We were watching it before school. It started before I went to school. My mom was watching when I got up, and then we ended up going to school and watched a second plane hit, and it just blew my mind. I went there a month after, and I couldn't even describe what I saw, guys. For one, pile of rubble, obviously in the middle, smoking, and then all the cars, it was like time stopped. Like, all the cars were still on the road, covered in dust. Half of buildings were gone. Like, when the buildings fell, it somehow it took like half of buildings off, so you could see in the building. It was just so crazy. And not only that, they had the whole square. Is it Times Square? No, I don't know what it is. No, it's not Times Square. whatever it is. They had this whole square fenced off. Every inch of that fence had teddy bears, flowers, cards, pictures. There was people crying. It was probably one of the most disturbing things I've seen. Like, it's crazy I lived through that. My grandparents that live in Jersey, they refuse to go. They said they've already lived it. They can't go. It was a huge thing. That was some crazy stuff, guys. Like, I know a lot of people that didn't even get to really obviously have the experience I had, but that was insane. Like, I was such a little kid. I was in 6th grade walking around that. Like, this is what happened. Like, so many people died. Like, I knew the concept of it. So many people died. Like, damn, that sucks, man. Having family that were in there. I didn't really know anyone that was in there. My family did. I wasn't really tight with a lot of people on the East Coast, you know, so I didn't really personally know a lot of people in that family that could have been in there. But my family would always talk about their friends that lost their lives, fathers, you know, mothers. It's just sad. It's sad. But this whole thing with some people did something. Honestly, if you want to hear my honest opinion, I think it was. I think I'm on the more conspiracy side. I think it was brought down by people within our own government, but I don't think this is that big of a deal. Her other shit's kind of sketchy,
not sure
but
how to handle it, even though they might be.
I'm not Jewish, so I can't. It doesn't hit me hard. You know what I'm saying? I'm Italian
bring up the fact
and Irish.
That, she's a new congresswoman, and on the right, what we have is the president of the United States in Charlottesville saying that there are good people on both sides.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Saying that there are good people on both sides.
This one gets very interesting. Please watch this, because the misconception that people have of this is so bizarre. And I'll tell you why. I've seen some documentaries on this and live feeds from Charlottesville. So I'll get to that.
And people are yelling, Jews will not replace us. They're not good people on both sides.
In that same sentence, when he said that, he also said, I am definitely not referring to white nationalists.
Why do you apologize for him?
I'm not apologizing.
Apologize?
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
I am definitely not referring to white nationalists.
Why do you apologize for him?
I'm not apologizing.
What is this? See, this is... I'm going to make something that someone's going to call sexist right now. This is a woman's thinking. This is a woman that is literally taking words. Men do it too, trust me. But you see this more in women, where you'll say something and they will make it to like he's apologetic. He's not apologetic. He's literally stating fact. How is he apologetic for Trump? Like, dude, this is the shit I'm talking about. And this is what like people, like mothers and shit, listen to this and like clap their hands when they say something good that they think is good, but they literally spout these lies. He's basically going through and just knocking all this shit out, dude. It's crazy. And people listen to this trash, dude. Like, I don't mean trash is in her. I mean trash is the shit that's coming out of their mouth. That's trash. And that's only fogging up people's minds with garbage.
You have to read what he actually said.
I listened to exactly what he said.
It wasn't in the same sentence. It was actually in a statement 2 days later.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So you agreed? No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So
it's weird that they do this slow-mo shit.
But I will say that
it was literally the same speech.
Those people, all of those people, excuse me, I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists. They put themselves down as and you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue. It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
You have.
I mean, what the fuck is the argument here? That he likes white nationalists? Like, he legit said, like, he doesn't condone any violence, any crime on any side. Now, the point that I was saying earlier is I've watched live streams of Charlottesville. And yeah, there was like David Duke or who the fuck those retarded ass white supremacist people are. But there were many people there that just didn't want the statues taken. So to say that Charlottesville was just white supremacist Nazis, like that literally shows me that you don't do any research. You don't look it up. Like everything is readily available. You can see live video from there. You know? And even at that point, those guys, here is the crazy thing about Charlottesville. Those guys had a permit to be there, to protest, right? And Antifa and these other people that are anti-fascist, they fucking swarmed them. Now they had a legitimate permit to be there in this park, right? The governor or whoever it was pulled their permit while they're there. Pulled their permit, said, police, get them the fuck out of here. So the police came in with shields. You can look this shit up. They came in shields and funneled them down the stairs into where Antifa was. It's like they wanted a clash. They literally created a problem. And so then you see these people that are running, if they're all white nationalists, which this group wasn't. When it gets into the later night, when people were carrying the torches, that was a little weird. But the point that I'm saying is that there was there was a lead up to what happened at Charlottesville. Obviously what happened at Charlottesville was horrible. But when they funneled people in, it's like they were like, it's kind of like your buddy. You know, too, your buddies don't like each other, and it's like you're fucking pushing them towards them. Like, give her a pussy. Like, you're egging the shit on. And what happened, like, there was one scene where this black dude, and it doesn't really matter what color he is, but you'll see the picture. He has an aerosol can and a lighter, and he's spraying it at the Nazis, or the people that are carrying flags, right? That are coming down. You'll see the famous picture. They're coming down the stairs that they funneled him into. And he's spraying flames at him. Like, I'm for speaking out against white supremacists or Nazis or whatever the fuck you want to call them. But I'm not going to do it in a way where I'm going to spit flames at them, because I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to create more hate. And like, I hate even saying like that. They're not going to accept what I have to say. The reason why I say this, the best video I saw was there was a Nazi, like a legitimate Nazi. I shouldn't say legitimate Nazi, because I think a Nazi, I think of Hitler, and this guy was definitely not Hitler, but a white supremacist, right? And there's a crowd of people, and there's this black dude. It's like, why do you hate me? Like, why do you hate me? You don't know me. Why do you hate me? And the black dude gave him a hug. Was like, yo, I don't care what is going on with your life. Like, I love you. Like, I'll always love you. That's the shit I'm saying. Like, when you come at someone with like that, who has a lot of hate in their life, who has been brainwashed into thinking the way they do, when you come at it with love, people are going to accept it more. Right? Isn't that the whole love movement? I mean, shit, hippie drugs, la, 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 you know?
Read what he actually said.
I listened to exactly what he said.
It wasn't in the same sentence. It was actually in a statement 2 days later.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So you agreed? No, it wasn't.
But I will say that some
would say that her comments were taken out of context because
she
said
something
out. Some people did something on 9/11 and out of context.
Unless she's referring to another event besides 9/11, I don't see how it was taken out of context. I think what people are trying to say is, well, she was explaining a broader point. Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
and I have no problem with her broader point.
Were
because they recognized that some people did something.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
All Muslims were
within
their
that
civil
point,
rights
what she
were being
referred to
taken away.
9/11 as was some people did something, unless you're referring to a different event, and I don't think she was, then it clearly was not taken out of context.
Well,
and I don't think she's apologized.
Why do we
But didn't Bush also say these people that took these
These
buildings
fucking girls,
down,
dude.
and no one sort of objected to it being framed in that way?
Okay, watch the difference, guys.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
But didn't Bush also say these people that took these buildings down, and no one sort of objected to it being framed in that way? But it seems like when Ilhan Omar says anything,
it was dismissive in tone, in gesture, and in words.
And then he signed into law the Clean Air Act Amendment of 1990, one of the most sweeping environmental statutes
Fucking brainwashing,
ever.
guys.
This
If you don't see it,
president that
I'm
we have
sorry.
now is trying to unravel everything that he did and Obama did. And if I ever become a one-issue voter, it will be about pollution and the greenhouse
Collusion.
effect. And
Can
the
we
fact
focus
that,
on the president, please? I
Pollution.
don't want to talk about Trump.
Well, I do
we're
for
in
a
the
second,
moment
so
of we're honoring a great president
Excuse me a
who's
second,
passed.
please. I want
This
to
is
talk
funny.
about the
We're
difference.
honoring, but I'm not interested in your one-issue
I don't
voter when
care
our
what you're
president just
interested in.
passed.
I'm talking.
Well, I don't care
You
what
know
you're
what?
interested in
We'll be
either,
right back.
boy. Okay?
Oh my god, dude. See, that's the shit I'm talking about there, guys. Oh. You know, I post a lot of stuff, right? And people probably have a big image of who I am and what I do. This shit's crazy, by the way, guys. This right here, this interview, this is in Toronto, Canada. I sent that to a buddy. Look, I'm not even religious, but this guy's creepy as shit. Look at this dude. Look at that guy. Look at his teeth, too. I know he's old, but changing the Lord's Prayer, like, that ain't gonna be happen. That's not gonna be good in the Christian community, or whoever does the Lord's Prayer. Anyway, this whole thing about these talk shows and people watching them, and even the comedy ones that they have that are pretty left-leaning, that push these narratives. Like, this guy literally went through all the claims that they did and was just like, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Well, then he tailed the truth, and she's like, well, why are you apologetic for Trump? It's like, these are the people I fucking deal with on a regular basis, you know? And this is, I hope that you can see how I think, where I'm like, that's not right. Like, what do you think you're doing? Like, this is a TV show pushing a narrative. Like, you think if any of those girls, I know the one who's, is it John McCain's daughter? Or, I don't know. I think it's his daughter. If there's any of those other ladies that said they supported Trump and were like, you know, I think he's doing a good thing, I don't think that would go well for them. I think it would be a little cat fight. I really do. And, but I'm all about all different kinds of things, you guys. Look, food. I'm all about being healthy, and healthy in the mind, body, and spirit, right? And I've been in marijuana. If you don't know who I am or know what I've done, I've been in the weed business for, oh shit, I don't even know, 7 years. I've ran 3 businesses. You know, I was young and I didn't go to college for it, and I learned my hard way, and I ended up getting out of the business because of where it went with the recreational. There's not a lot of money in it right now. For one, Kate Brown screwed that up for a lot of people by letting out-of-state funding, something you didn't vote in. That was not in the bill. She opened out-of-state funding. Our goal was to keep the money within the people here, having the mom and pop shops, keeping the money in the industry. And what happened is New York, big money came in, started buying everything up and taking over. You know, people that are anti-corporation, you know, Kate Brown, like, being progressive, like, oh, let's just open up our borders to bringing in money coming in from other states. And it just caused more problems. Oh, I don't even like to see that. I don't want to put that on my video. This was cute as shit. I have a baby now. It's about 1 year and 7 months. Probably close to 8 months now. It's so crazy how the humans work, dude. Like, look at that. Totally comfortable now. Like, babies are just amazing, man. Kids are just insane. Like, right here, that's my little baby. That's my little baby girl. I don't like how there's a square box. Look, I'll show off my muscles. Look at that big muscle. Pfft. That's my baby. We're swimming in the river. Yeah. Yeah. I know. You don't have to say it. I know. But she is savage. Look at this little girl. Awesome. Anyway, that was my first real kind of political video. Not really even doing much other than just kind of doing some opinion stuff. But you're going to see more of it. I promise you. Stay tuned. If the algorithms are on my side, which they probably aren't, and I can tell because some stuff I post a long time ago, I'm still getting likes for. So there's something weird with the algorithms and how they transfer. I feel like when I post fresh stuff, nobody really sees it. And then old stuff will kind of trickle in if it's like not crazy political. You know, Facebook already has me marked as some crazy, not crazy, but it says conservative. You can like look up your political stance. It's pretty funny. But anyway, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you see what I see. There's a lot of manipulation going on, a lot of lies, a lot of deception that's going on. It's pretty messed up, man. I wish we can have free thinkers and not have so much deception in the world so we can actually make good decisions. But all in all, there's been a wrench thrown in our political system. Now everyone's watching, which I'm glad about. Nobody gave a shit 5 years ago. Nobody cared about politics. Like, I've watched Congress hearings, and I try to talk to it, and everyone's like, I'm trying to drink my beer, bro, and pick up some ladies. You know, or girls are like, I don't want to hear about politics. You know, I hear that all the time. It's like, you guys should know about this shit. Like, this shit that's going on, these laws and these bills that they're putting in effect are going to affect you 5-10 years down the road. It might make it harder for you to live as a child. I want to educate you, or at least bring you to the awareness to know what's going on. That way you can put your word in and we can stop something we shouldn't have. You know, that's the conversation. We should learn how to govern ourselves. We shouldn't be so dependent on a government. Unless it's like straight up security, like they need to protect us, you know. That's their main duty. Obviously, you know, obey by the Constitution, but they need to protect us, and they're not. They're not, guys. They're out for their self-interest. You know, people argue that Trump's doing that too. I would beg to differ, but there's other people that are out there for their self-interest. I mean, shit, a whole bunch of Democrats in California just raised their fucking pay. Like, and they have homeless people in the streets, and these guys are raising their pay. Like, that's supposed to be the liberal dream down there. That's supposed to be the leaders of this country. Like, you're out of your mind. Think about it. They just gave all the benefits. I shouldn't say all the benefits, but all the leniency to homeless people. Where do you think they're all going to go? They're going to go to California. Like, that state just fucked itself up. And then they want to bring in illegals on top of it. Like, you're literally, it's going to be hell. There's probably going to, I think there's reports of the Black Plague there. It's going to be hell. You're going to see an outbreak come out from the liberal area, not the fucking rednecks that have survived on the land and know how to live without government intervention to a certain degree, more than people that are in California and New York. I'll just say that much. Anyway, guys, you guys have a good one. Hope you enjoyed my little setup. I might do a little background. I kind of like the green screen. You can kind of see. Look, here's my light. Pretty cool. Anyway, adios, mi amigos. I'll catch you on another time frame. Peace.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.